Awesome. So today's event is super cool. We're going to hear 5 startups pitch and see real-time advice from 2 actual investors. So allow me to introduce Stephanie Rich. She is the head of platform at Bread and Butter Ventures, and she's also an EIR at Techstars Farm to Fork. So I'll hand it off to Stephanie.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. First of all, can we give a huge round of applause and thank you for the Beta and TCSW team for an awesome week. So, I just realized I don't have the clicker. That would be great. So I'm Stephanie. I'm at Bread and Butter Ventures. We are an early stage venture capital fund based here in Minnesota, investing across the country and really globally. We invest in seed stage companies in food and agriculture, technology, health tech, and enterprise SaaS. A few sometimes outside of there. We've got 2 phenomenal managing partners, one of whom is sitting next, so we're Bread and Butter. One of whom is sitting next to me. This is Brett. He's going to introduce himself in 1 second. Mary Grove sends her love to everyone. She is home with some sick kiddos today, so is not joining us. But she is a phenomenal person in our community. If you get to meet her, she is former Google for 15 years, started Google for Startups, was a partner at Rise of the Rest, and now runs our health tech practice.
And our attendance just dropped by half.
Just everybody tuned in to see Mary. Pretty much. Brett, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Brett. I'm the other managing partner at Bread and Butter Ventures. I'm also the managing director of the Techstars Farm to Fork Accelerator, and am the managing director at the Techstars Twins Accelerator as well. So I was a founder for a long time, built a few companies, and have been investing for 6 years now. First as an angel, and now through Bread and Butter and the Techstars platforms. So we're on our 3rd fund. We've made about 50 investments through our funds, through our series of funds over the last 3 years. Between Techstars and Bread and Butter Ventures, I've made 43 investments into food tech, ag tech companies. So I've been very active investing in the food and ag tech space over the last 3-4 years.
Yeah. And so before we get started, just a couple things. We have 5 phenomenal entrepreneurs who are going to pitch to us. This is a little different than a typical investor pitch. There's typically not an audience. We're typically not on stage and mic'd up. And
usually somebody doesn't yell, time!
Yes.
Which we're going to do.
We're going to do time. So it's usually a little bit more casual. So bear with us on that and know if you're an entrepreneur, this is not where we hear pitches every day. One quick thing I want to share, just because we have founders listening, how do you actually get to pitch? How do you find a VC? One of the first steps when you're super early is just meeting people, and so you might be sending cold emails. I just want to share for the crowd my 3 top tips for sending cold emails to a VC, or angel investor even. First of all, personalize it. You can go on their website, find out a name. I get lots of emails to Hi Bread, because it's a mass email. It is worth your time to do that research and find out Brett, Mary, Stephanie, or anybody at that fund. 2, then give a reason why you're reaching out specifically to that fund. I saw you speak at Startup Week. I'm a food and ag tech company. I'm really interested in working with you. Give us a reason that you're reaching out. I just want feedback on my pitch. And then 3rd, say a little bit about your company. It's amazing how many folks kind of say, I have a really cool opportunity. Can I have 30 minutes of your time? And while we wish we could do that, we see about 1,500 deals a year. So it's impossible to do that just off the basis of like, hey, I'm really cool. I will say all 3 of us do open office hours. So if you do want to talk about your pitch, go to our website, breadandbutterventures.com, go to the community page, and book some time with us. So with that, we're going to get started with our first startup, Pejman from Tuka.io.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
And
awesome.
Here's the clicker.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
And we are, in fact, timing. And so if I'm rude and I cut people off, that was a part of the game plan, because we are going to talk to 5 founders.
And I'm taking notes, so paying attention, not just journaling.
All right. Happy Friday. My name is Pejman. I am the founder and CEO of Tuka. We are a developer tools company. We help software engineers actually see the side effects of their changes as they are writing code. And usually when I start pitching, I give a shorter story of how I started Tuka, but I only have 5 minutes. So all I want to do is to get you excited to come talk to me more. So what I want to do is just to skip the statistics and just give you this one statistics, 23 days. That is how long it takes usually for a software engineer to get confidence that a code change that they're making today is actually working as they expect. And 23 days is a long time. That's 3 weeks and 2 days. So we want to change that. What we want to do at Tuka is to reduce this to minutes for large enterprise businesses and to mere seconds for smaller companies. And we can do that because developers don't have any way of reducing this time right now, because every time they make code changes, they need to wait for a testing engineering team to grab the software, do the testing, and see if they, they created bugs. And then they need to file a ticket for the software engineer to go back and fix it. And by the time that they're actually fixing it, they don't have that context. They don't know what to do then, because they've moved on to working on something else. So that's what we do. We try to actually give that feedback without actually involving the test engineering team. And the way that we do it is that we would take the code changes, run them on the cloud with as many test cases as needed to capture the behavior and performance of the software, and then basically compare that behavior against a previous version of that same software, a version that they shipped to their customers. So we're kind of fundamentally different than traditional testing tools, because when you say software testing automation, everyone says, well, you're going to automate the running of the unit test for developers. We're not doing that. We're just basically checking if a software is working as well as before. We don't care about whether it's working correctly or not. And because of that, we can make the detection really fast. So that explains why we are different from these 3 logos at the top. They are focusing on QA engineering teams. We are focusing on developers. So our approach is actually like in the market today. Companies like Cypress are already doing that for web-based like softwares, like e-commerce websites. You go click here, click there. Does it work or not? What we do is we capture values of variables and runtime of functions. So we're so low level that we can capture anything. We can test any software, even if it's not web-based. It doesn't have any visual. So I'm going to just skip, because I assume you know how big the developer tool market is. And I want to say that the way that we are going to make money, $25 million by 2026, is to actually charge developers who are actually working in businesses, in companies. So we prove our value with our free tier, and then once the developers are happy with our solution, know that it works, then we rely on them promoting our software to their companies so we can make money by basically giving licenses, monthly licenses to our self-hosted version of our software. And so we're very early. This chart, what is it called, ice hockey thing? So it's
hockey stick.
Yeah, hockey stick. So anyway, we're in 2021, so $10 of revenue is not going to cut it for me to convince you that we're going to grow as hard. But we have good users already. Since our incorporation in May, we have 23 monthly active users. And 4 engineering teams are already using our product. One is a medical software company using our product at a scale to test visualization of MRI and CT scans. So our software actually works. And it's being deployed at a scale and being used by lots of people. Again, my name is Pejman, and if you are interested, I'd be very happy to speak more about what we are doing at Tuka. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. That was great. Awesome. That was your first pitch? That was so great.
Yes, that was my first ever pitch. Thank you.
I think what I would love to see a little bit more of is when you talk about the problem, you talk about it really holistically, which is great, of like the developers feel really nervous about this. I want to know a little bit more about how it impacts their business and kind of the company, especially when you're selling to enterprises. I think you can tell that story of like, cool, why is the developer that person who's going to be the advocate for purchasing this? Why do they want it? Which I think you have. But then why does the person who might be that manager sign up for 100 developers?
That's
and
right.
so I think that would be something that would be kind of great to add and could just help also with that big vision of where you're going.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
From a presentation perspective, right? One of the things is like, don't ever make excuses, right? For like your presentation or how you're going to present or skip over things. You and everybody else should have customize your presentations based on the amount of time you're given. While 5 minutes might seem like not much, all of my first meetings with startups are 20-minute meetings. And so it's not like you get an hour with me. And in that first 20-minute meeting, if you pitch more than 6-7 minutes, you're pitching too long. Most of the time should be used for Q&A. If you get to like a second round meeting or you're talking with an investor or potential sales opportunity and you have an hour scheduled, then yeah, put together a 20-minute pitch or a 20-minute presentation. If you get a 10-minute window, a 5-minute, 3, 4, 5-minute presentation. And customize it. Take slides out. What are the most important things rather than saying, hey, I'm not going to talk about this, but there's a slide there, right? And so be very, and it's a big mistake. Like, it's not you, like entrepreneurs all over make that mistake where you'd be amazed at how many times in my 20-minute meeting an entrepreneur pitches for 19 minutes of it and I don't have a single chance to ask a question. And there's nothing more frustrating, and those entrepreneurs don't ever get a second meeting in general. So customize your pitch, cut it down. And then I actually am glad we stopped on this slide. So you also open with, usually I talk about my story. That's the first thing you should have done.
We would love to hear you.
I mean, we love, like investors, especially early stage investors, love why the hell did you start this company? Like people that have pitched me know I always ask 2 questions. Like one is like, why the hell are you doing this? Entrepreneurship is really fucking hard. Excuse my language. It's really hard. Like, why are you doing this? Tell me the story. And I care about that as much as I care about anything else. The second thing that I ask everybody is, how are you going to take over the world? Like, what's your big vision? Because if we're looking to invest from a venture perspective, how you're going to take over the world is how I'm going to get venture-style returns. And so that's another really important thing that I didn't get a lot of out of here. From your early adoption and traction, don't apologize for the traction you have.
Great.
Right? Like if you frame it like this, like if you say, hey, we actually don't have that much traction, like $10 a month's not going to impress anybody. All of a sudden, everything you say after that, I'm going to be like, oh, he's right, like that sucks. If you came into this and said, hey, we got one firm that's really, really active, using it all the time already, and we just launched last month, it's the exact same traction. It's the framing of that traction that will help how you pitch and help you do a better job on it, right? And so when you're early, focus on the usage. Don't focus on the money. Unless, like, actually, when you had the $10 on there, if you feel like being cheeky, like, I actually might include that if you can pull off like a joke around it. Like, or pull off some sort of humor to show personality. Yes. Like that's actually kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add there is one of the things investors are looking for is momentum. So putting it in, and you hint at it in here when you say like just incorporated in May 2021. But like we'd like to see kind of that upward trajectory, not just a flat number.
Oh, I see. Yes. I get that.
Yeah.
You're right.
How are we doing on time?
Momentum matters as much as traction, right? So when you're going to like pitch any type of investor, it's like what's your number or what's your usage and what's your velocity to get to that usage. And like a general rule of thumb, once you get like past seed to get to a Series A round, you're going to have to grow like 15 to 20% month over month from a revenue perspective if you're an enterprise SaaS company. And there's different metrics depending on what type of round you're going after that you want to hit. So there's a couple things to think about.
One last thing.
We're at time.
So as you're still early, start a list where you keep people updated so we know how you're doing as you continue to grow.
Oh, yeah. So we already have a list of more than 100 people on it. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's a really good start.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was...
Go ahead.
Thank you. This was a little different when I practiced in the shower this morning. So.
You did awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. And it does take a lot of guts to get up and
It
like
takes a
pitch your
ton of
business
guts.
like live in front of people, knowing that you're going to get real feedback. And they've never pitched us before, or most of them have never pitched us before, so they have no idea what we're going to say. Like the founders that are about to present have no idea what we're going to say.
Okay, I think I remember the order.
I have no
Can
idea.
we click to see who's next?
Little.
It's gonna be a surprise. I don't have the clicker. Yes, Bryson, come on up. Woo! Stage is yours.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bryson. I'm the founder and CEO of Twine. Twine is the first date planning platform that is targeted for indecisive couples that have a problem with creating unique and memorable date events.
Yeah, there we go.
So before I hop into my pitch, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about my personal dating life. So around 6 months ago, I was seeing this girl. She was awesome, right? We were chatting, we were constantly going on dates, but our schedules just got so busy. So what ended up happening was we actually stopped seeing each other for a while, and we only texted, I'd say once a day, twice a day. But what ended up happening was we actually had a lot of tension between us. And since we didn't get to go on these dates and talk about our problems and vent to each other about our day-to-day lives, it actually led us to break up eventually. So I took a step back and I was like, whoa, how did I mess up here? And it really was within those dates. And my story is not just applicable to myself, it's clearly applicable to several millions of couples out there. And what I've learned from this is that dating is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity for couples that want to stay in relationships. So, let me do that. So the University of Virginia posted a statistic called the National Marriage Project, and they found that it is 350% more likely for a couple to stay together if they were to go on a date at least once a week. And with those same conditions, they found that divorce rates were slashed 52%. Now, we did a little bit of research and we were like, okay, well, clearly there's a lot of people that are in relationships, that are going on dates, but they're not having it. And we did a little bit of research, so we went out to a survey around 100 participants, and what we found was that a lot of these couples were not going on dates because it wasn't interesting enough, and it wasn't fun. They needed something to spice their relationship. So as you can see on the screen, I have all of these unique events. I want you to imagine if you were able to sand dune down, snowboard down a sand dune, or have a candlelit dinner enjoying a steak with an orchestra playing some candlelit dinners for you. Now, you probably haven't seen these events, but they do exist. And we needed to find a way how to get these couples that wanted to spice their relationships up to these unique and memorable events. So that's where we come into place, Twine, the first mobile application that takes into account you and your significant other's match preferences and connects them to the most unique and memorable date spots near you. So we take on the introduction of where to go and also how to schedule your dates. So we went through around 6 different product iterations, and we've done tests with 246 participants, and 96% of those users recommend using Twine over Yelp, Google Maps, TripAdvisor, or any event planning platform. So you're probably wondering, how big is the market size for couples? Well, we took into account and we saw the average amount of money spent on a date night is $85. And nationwide, that market value is around $33 billion. And we decided we're not going to charge users to use this product because that kills user experience. So instead, since our product is able to go ahead and direct target users to their storefronts, we figured we may as well charge the businesses. So we have 2 revenue models in place at a business affiliate program and also ad revenue through native advertising on our platform. Now, we have a pretty stacked team for this. I have some experience in retail, I have some experience in the food industry as well, and our CTO is heavily stacked with offshore development teams, And also Kalis is great because he's a great sales advisor and he's great at business strategy. Now, you're probably thinking, how do we want to go to market? If we were to expand nationwide, there's so many people, there's so many places. We figured that we would dominate, since I'm from Los Angeles, I would want to dominate county by county and then grow exponentially from there. And the big vision of our application is to really target these dating app users, these new couples that are being created from dating apps. Because dating apps, they're great at matching people. They're super convenient. But the only problem with them is that they don't help you plan that first date. They don't create these unique and memorable experiences for you. That's all you. And we want to help those people create those unique and memorable experiences through our platform. So in the next 5 years, we want to see ourselves integrated into major dating apps or smaller dating apps so we can help them live a fulfilled relationship. And as far as traction goes, we released our prototype last month. Yes, last month. So last month we released our prototype, and for this month, September, our beta signups reached 150, but now we're at 246 users that are waiting for the Twine app to be built. And right now we're also onboarding businesses and doing some product iteration testing in order for them to fall in love with our product. So we have users that are waiting. We have businesses that are waiting as well. The only thing we need to do is just build the product. So if you would like to help us build the product, let's intertwine and let's chat some more.
But,
Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead. That was great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about the footer. That is my bad.
No worries.
Well, now everyone did. So for me, when I see consumer stuff, I loved hearing your go-to-market in terms of cities. When I see consumer-facing products and platforms, I love to get a little bit more detail about how you're actually going to acquire customers. I'm thinking through that a bit just because that is such a key part of growth. So that's what I'd love to see added, and you might have had it in a longer pitch. But instead of even that, necessarily that geographic range, I'd love to see a bit more about, is it ads? Is it, do you have experience there? How are you going to do that? And then if you can put in any viral effects, investors love viral effects and network effects. So anything that you're going to have the business give the businesses special things that they can share with others who will then also sign up, and that just creates some sort of flywheel. Talking a little bit about that would be fantastic to see, I think.
Awesome. So for the go-to-market strategy side, it's preferred to do customer acquisition, and our goal is to acquire those customers over location.
I think a combination is great, but I do think particularly from a consumer standpoint, since you need scale to really hit it out of the park, I love to see a little bit more on the marketing side.
Awesome.
We're going to go to market in California, starting county by county, and within each county, we're going to acquire consumers through digital, digital advertising, targeting those zip codes. Via this. We're doing these things to create a little bit of that word of mouth effect. So so it's a combination of both, and you can get through it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do like personal stories to lead off as a hook, but yours went 2.5 of the 5 minutes. So your story introducing the company went 2.5 of your 5 minutes, and you actually went about 6.5 minutes. And so it was a long pitch. And so you could have done your personal story basically hey, I was dating this girl one time, we weren't going on enough dates, and we broke up, and that sucked, right? Or something like that, in a much shorter manner, getting to that hook, and because I think it dragged on. And I know that lots of you have probably felt that, whether you're married, whether you're single, going on dates is tough. It's tough to find that new thing, right? People tend to probably feel that pain point if you believe that they do. And so there's probably a way to relate to the audience that you're talking to pretty quickly, no matter who it is that you're talking to. Just a real quick, in general, and this is a bit of a different experience than if you were just talking to us one-on-one, but even in an audience like this, starting each slide with, I bet you're wondering, or you might be thinking, or don't start a slide off with a question. Start it off as you are telling, right? You're the expert. When you're on stage and when you're pitching, you automatically have a bit of credibility given to you. So by being on stage and by talking about whatever it is you're talking about, I'd say that most people give you the benefit of the doubt that you are an expert in the thing that you're doing and the thing that you're building. Take advantage of that. You can say, this is fact, and people will genuinely believe you. Now, you have to be able to back that up if somebody comes up to you afterwards and says, hey, why is this right? You have to be able to back it up and not just like, I pulled it out of my ass, right? But be thoughtful about that and take advantage of the ability to leverage your expertise by being on stage or by giving a presentation.
One last thing, don't be afraid when you're talking about where you can be in 5 years and you're gonna be integrated with all those apps, don't be afraid to take them down. Like, don't be afraid to think really big, like you're gonna replace these apps.
Gotcha.
Yeah, seriously, go after them. Like, people like to hear that. And that's it, that's 10 minutes.
All right,
That's
thank you guys.
awesome. Thank you. Amoga. Up next, we've got Amoga from Carbon Origins.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. I love being in museums, and I'm usually in the audience watching like a science show or some experiments, so this is really cool. And we're going to be talking about science because that's what we do at Carbon Origins, well, predominantly engineering. All right, so we're new to town, so I'm pleased to introduce you to Carbon Origins. As Steph mentioned, my name is Amoga, co-founder and CEO of Carbon Origins. Launching suborbital rockets and high-altitude payloads. Landing robots on Mars. Deploying machine learning, hurricane tracking satellite constellations. And developing the Disney's The Void VR experiences. They all have one thing in common. The founders of Carbon Origins made them possible. We've worked together for over a decade on some groundbreaking technologies, and today we're focused on two of the most important challenges in robotics. Urban autonomous navigation in complex, unstructured environments where robots fail miserably. And human-robot interactions, which is incredibly important to get right if you're going to have robots everywhere. Solving these two challenges is fundamental in us achieving our ultimate mission, making robots commonplace. Because we believe that in a world where robots are commonplace, 100% of us can focus on whatever we want, and that's an awesome world to live in. And the best application to solve urban robotics and human-robot interactions is last-mile deliveries. It's not only the perfect training ground for our application and our technology, but it is also a $60 billion market that's growing at a rapid pace and will reach $122 billion by 2025. Humans are extremely expensive and unreliable, and restaurants hate delivery services. These are not sustainable or scalable solutions for last-mile deliveries. We are going to put an end to this madness. Our robot, Skippy, expertly navigates urban environments, picks up your groceries and takeout, and delivers it right to your doorstep, tells you a joke, and brightens up your day. Skippy uses NASA's rocker bogie mechanism, which is used on every single Mars rover. This allows Skippy to climb over curbs, even stairs. And we use deep reinforcement learning to train Skippy's neural networks on how to navigate campuses, buildings, sidewalks, bike lanes in real time, using real-world data through VR, which is the highest bandwidth interface to the human brain. We launched our VR app on July 20th, and today we have over 300 VR drivers on the platform waiting to start controlling Skippy. The first 50 are trained and are riding sidecar with our robotics engineers driving the robots and training the robots. That's Skippy in California, delivering my groceries. So Skipsters train Skippy in real time through deep reinforcement learning, trains the neural network on how to navigate complex environments without having to write code or do brute force AI training. This is a new way to train robots, and it's probably the only way to make robots commonplace. We have a really diversified recurring revenue stream on Skippy. We charge a small commission on every delivery that Skippy makes. We sell targeted animatronics, high engagement advertising on the robot's delivery container. And finally, we'll monetize the neural networks and the databases we create on Skippy. Skippy is live now and making money and delivering meals to teams in Osborne 370 in St. Paul, Minnesota, downtown. Woo! Yes. The tools, the AI framework, the training framework in VR, and the databases that we're creating on Skippy is going to be the backbone for the trillion-dollar urban robotics industry. We're going to have our robots everywhere. We're unlocking the final frontier to making robots commonplace, not only on Earth, but on Moon, Mars, and beyond. Thank you. If you want to skip it in the future, well, come check us out at Carbon Origins.
Awesome. Well done, Amoga.
Thank
So I want to just talk really quick. At the beginning, you had a video that didn't go.
Yeah.
And you handled it really, really well. And I just want to touch on that because we've seen so many people pitch and over the years, and either something in their slide doesn't work, they're trying to do a live demo and it fails, it doesn't work, it doesn't populate, it opens to the wrong thing, their internet is down. I was a Wi-Fi device company, our devices used to break all the time, or they forget something. That's okay, that happens. We've seen it tons of times. Keep going and know your company so well inside and out that you can just pitch it passionately by heart so that even if you trip over your words a little bit, you keep going. So I just want to say that was a great job to just, something goes wrong, keep going, don't let it rattle you, finish off the pitch, whether it's a demo or wording, anything like that.
Yeah, I think that in general, I actually think you did get like a little bit by like the slides not turning, a little bit like caught up, and you'd stop and pause. And I think we've seen that with everybody so far for whatever reason, like the slides are moving a little slow. And just don't wait for the slide, like when you're pitching. Just keep going, especially when you're time boxed, like you are here. Can't wait for your slides, because all of a sudden you wait 10 seconds. You lose your crowd, because your crowd goes to their phones. And as soon as you lose a crowd to the phone, you're not going to get them back.
How did I do on the time?
It was about just under 5 minutes. So just under 5 minutes, right? But if you lose your crowd, it is really hard to get a crowd back once you lose them. And so just pitch over it, right? Like, hope that your slide is going to catch up. And it's hard to do, but just pitch over it. One thing else, like just to add on Steph's, like for anybody, never do live demos, ever. Like if you want to try, like if you want to do a live demo, you can make it look like a live demo on your deck, but don't ever do a live demo. Always pre-recorded.
Except when you're in tech diligence.
Except when you're, I mean like in like a first pitch.
In a first pitch, yeah.
Yeah, in a first pitch,
Record
you're not doing a live
use
demo.
Loom is a great tool. There are lots of things that you can use to kind of record things.
I like the hook up front, right? I mean, I think you establish yourselves as experts right away, so I thought that was really positive. I was a bit confused around the order, around the VR, because you started talking about VR, and you showed, like, we went live with our VR app. I was like, who cares? Like, because I had no context of why, like, we were talking about robots, and all of a sudden we said we went live with the VR app, and I'm like, why does that matter? Why are we talking about VR all of a sudden?
Because we can scale infinitely without relying on drivers on site. I should have said that.
Say that sentence.
Yeah.
So one of the really useful things of doing this, right, is we do know Amoga, but Brett has never heard that pitch before. We haven't heard that pitch before. And so getting somebody who is not super close to your business to listen and help you identify those things is really great. It's wonderful to practice in front of a team or spouse or significant other, but having somebody from outside can be really helpful.
Yeah, and like genuinely, like your order of operations there was, we're talking about robots, making robots commonplace, and then VR app launched. Well, who gives a shit, right? Why does that matter? Like why?
That's how you make the best robots.
I understand that, because I know you. However, from your pitch, I would have been lost.
No, I need to hit on that very clearly.
And so making sure that how you tie in the VR portion of what you do to the robotics portion of what you do, which you did later on in the pitch, but like I was lost for a minute. Like you took me down a path that I was not expecting to go down without tying the two things together.
Okay.
Right? I liked the way you showed competition, like in a kind of funny way. I thought that was pretty good.
TikTok to the rescue.
I thought that was solid. One other thing, and it's hard when you're in presentations, but like, what's your asks? Anytime you're in front of a crowd, when you're talking to an investor, usually your ask is, hey, we're raising $1.5 million, we're raising $3 million. Here's where we're at in the process of that.
When you're at when you're at an event, there are public rules about asking for money, but make sure that you say, hey, sign up, come talk to me.
Yes, I have an ask. Come check out Skippy. Take a selfie with him. He'll give you free beer or soda.
Is he here?
If you tag him. He's at Osborne 370. It's like a 10-minute walk because he's making us money. He needs to work. Come meet him at his work.
And I think we're at about your 10 minutes. We're about to hit the 10-minute time right now. I guess the last thing I would say is, it's like you jump from, and this is nitpicky, but you jump from like one robot making deliveries right now to your big vision, which is a huge big vision. I love big visions, but like maybe there's an opportunity to say
more how to get there.
Yeah, a little bit more how to get from one to robots on Mars.
Right.
But that was awesome. Thanks, Morgan.
Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Laura, you're up next. Laura from In Control Health.
Hi. Hi, my name's Laura Zembrunnen, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of In Control Health. We help people save their hair from chemotherapy by cooling their scalp. Current methods to preserve your hair just aren't cutting it. To explain how our device works, I'd like to share Tiffany's story from our clinical trial. Tiffany had her own Hair Guardian system. She would put on her cap about 30 minutes before chemo started and then gradually cool down to a temperature that would block the chemo from destroying her hair cells. She would keep her cap on all during chemo, and then when chemo was done, she kept cooling for 5 more hours, often finishing up on her long ride home. Portability to be able to cool longer and a custom fit hat create a greater user experience. And Hair Guardian's clinical results were over 20 points above the baseline. Scalp cooling is an option for over 210,000 patients per year in the US. We're excited about our leadership team. Mike is a specialist in heat transfer and also has run a $70 million product line. Dr. Beeging was a former Hair Guardian user, and I started out as an ICU nurse and became an electrical engineer with a focus on programming. And we're not doing this alone. It takes a village, and we were lucky to be part of the Launch Minnesota ecosystem, and that enabled us to be part of the University of Minnesota Discovery Launchpad Accelerator Program, which was outstanding. So we plan to build the caps and system locally and then sell direct to the patient. The patient buys the cap and rents the system. And we plan to be a $20 million company in 4 years, growing to about $100 million in 7. And we're not stopping there. Our follow-on product, Nerve Guardian, treats peripheral-induced neuropathy, and following that is Brain Guardian, which treats concussions on site, all using the same technology. So we're currently seeking a seed round to get us through FDA clearance in 10 months. 4 to 6 months of that is in review with the FDA, and then following that, 4 to 6 months of market traction. So thank you for letting me practice and listening. I appreciate it, and look forward to the feedback.
Awesome, thanks, Laura. So I love how you started of the story of here's what's happening now. I would love even more detail about how that actually works in terms of how it's different from your technology. And so what I think is important for something that is a kind of industry changing, like totally new technology solution, I'd love a little bit more details on the tech. That doesn't mean you tell me everything. It doesn't mean you give away secrets or anything. But I want to know a little bit more about why you're able to do this. Like what you have discovered or come up with, or the insights that help you actually create Hair Guardian. I would love to just see more of that. And that also gives me confidence in how you think about technology going forward for your future products.
How many people are diagnosed with cancer every year?
1.8 million in the U.S.
How many of those people receive chemo?
Well, let's see. I can't tell you how much, but we did funnel it down.
About.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, the question was about how many, and I'm sorry, but I can tell you we funneled down from the statistics on the Cancer Society page to the number of patients that get chemo, and then not all chemo causes hair loss.
It's okay. Like just,
So
I mean, approximately.
210,000 get.
But I mean, your story, right? Just like to start from the beginning, like if you know, because I like the story also, and the pictures are powerful, but it's 1.5 million people are diagnosed with cancer every year in the United States. 210,000 of them require chemo. Of those, 90% of those people lose their hair completely. And while that might not seem like a big deal for people going through something that's already traumatic in their lives, losing their hair can be a big deal. We're coming up with a solution that solves that problem. Let me tell you the story about Taylor. She's a hairdresser. Imagine losing, and so you can really lean into that story and take that story and really draw an audience in and show and I think it was there, but
Would you say that's to get the market up front in the pitch?
No, I think it's more to me it's a bit market, but it's more, to me it's a bit more around when we talk about building pitches with the people that we work with, there's a variety of different ways you can get a hook in people, and when I talk about building a pitch, it's you have one or two slides to get a hook in somebody, otherwise they're not going to listen to the rest of your pitch. And so you need to have a powerful hook. So that could be your team is amazing, which is that was what Amoga went with, right? You could go with the personal story around dating people and getting dumped because you didn't go on enough dates, right? You could also go with the heartfelt story, right? Or what you have at the beginning. And so there's a variety of stories that we give names. And so to me, it's a bit more of some people might not have context of how many people this affects up front, but it's a big problem. And then I like the story that you had up front as well. And so to me, and then you can refer back to it and say, of those, people, it's this big of a market, on an annualized basis that unfortunately is renewing. But I think you have an opportunity to really lean into your opening. It can be really powerful and really get people interested in follow-up conversations, follow-up meetings, really understanding the pain points that you're trying to solve.
And don't forget that investors don't know a lot of things.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily know how big your market is. We don't necessarily, we have an investment in a fishing company. Fishing retail is a $4 billion industry. I didn't know that. And so giving some numbers up front can be really helpful, especially if you're in an area that is not the core central focus of that investor.
Yeah, I agree. Setting the stage and it enables you to take control of the audience, and it gets people to lean in. One thing I would say another thing that I'd call out on the slide where it's right now you're 20 points better or from 45% to 65% roughly, or whatever those numbers were. So giving some context about why that's good, because in school when I got a 65, I failed. Mm-hmm. And so giving some context of why that's good is important. And if you're going to throw stats out there or numbers on your product, making sure that they are impressive is important. And if you're not quite there yet on your stats or your product, you could also have had here's the baseline, 45%. We're at 65% today already, changing the lives of this many people. But within the next year, we expect to be at, with continued R&D, we expect to be here to show that we're not done at 65%. Our product is going to continue to improve and get here, 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 and here.
And then one other idea for you would be on your big vision. I mean, that's super cool that you're talking about all these different areas that you can help with. Talk about why, going back to what I said earlier, why you're in place to do that, and how getting Hair Guardian for market is going to allow you, like, is it the same technology? Just getting a little deeper into that, because that's a cool big vision, right? You're starting with already a pretty large market, and then you're going even bigger with that tech. So even spending a little more time building that out, I think would be really cool, right? Because as Brett said a few pitches ago, for venture funds, we're looking huge, right? And so seeing that you as a founder are thinking like that is awesome. So don't be afraid to dive into that even more.
Yeah, totally agree. You have to, if you want to raise capital from from a fund, you have to paint a picture of how you're going to be doing. You're going to be worth $1 billion one day, at least. And if you're never going to be worth $1 billion, then venture capital might not. The immediate thing that goes through my mind is oh, how do you get to the point where you can build and sell a great company, but it's not venture backable? And so you have to paint that big picture, which I actually think you did a good job of getting into at the end. One other thing, it felt like you were trying to squeeze in competition in there. At one point, I actually don't always think you need to talk about competition. I'm of the mind where, especially in something like what you're doing, I might have assumed that there was no competition. And so you started saying versus our competition. I'm oh shit, she didn't even need to tell me that. I would have thought it was great.
I would have thought it was the only
competition.
thing.
You would have Googled and seen that.
No. And if I'm lazy.
Brett wouldn't.
I'm way lazy. I would definitely not have done that. I might have asked you about competition eventually, but what you have to think about when you're pitching, all the information you're giving, what value does it add? Why does it make, you know what I mean? How does that add value to your pitch? And I have actually found more and more that addressing competition in the first pitch actually doesn't add value to your pitch unless it's an elephant in the room type situation where if you're doing another meal kit delivery company and there's 17,000 meal kit delivery companies, you have to address that. That elephant in the room. But if you're in a space where there's a lot less competition, you don't necessarily need to address it head on in your first pitch. It's something that might come up in a second meeting or diligence, but don't feel like you need to do it.
And they won't think I'm being not transparent?
No, not at all.
Wow. Thank you.
That was awesome, Laura. We are at
really
a little
appreciate
buzzer with the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, get on up here.
Actually, Mark, we ran out of time. We're not going to be able to go.
That's great.
No, I'm just
Doing it in 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I know you could.
Oh, I'd love to hear the 7 seconds.
No, give it. All right, ready? No,
Let's do it.
Full one, full pitch.
Imagine, if you will.
Microphone.
Imagine, if you will, you're a kid sitting on the floor, watching your mother spend 2 hours each week looking for deals and clipping coupons, but not finding enough savings to buy the food that she wants for her family. I was that boy, and my mother was that woman. Guys, the $700 billion grocery market is broken. For people like my mother and the millions of other shoppers out there, as well as the retailers who serve them. The pandemic has made matters worse. 49 million food insecure Americans were forced to use expensive online platforms that literally took the food off their plates. And these online delivery companies charged the retailers a 5 to 8% platform fee that was either passed on to the shopper or absorbed, hurting their margins. And you can bet what they did. They passed it on to the shoppers, meaning less food for those individuals to eat. You can imagine that this is personal for me. I've been trying to solve food and logistical problems for most of my life. Started a grocery store in college, successfully exited a $20 million run rate startup, and co-founded 2 grocery shopping apps. This experience, plus the walk I had to make to put items back on the shelf that my mother couldn't afford, has taught me 2 things. 1, retailers need a better way to aggregate demand that won't increase prices or reduce their margins. 2, the 49 million Americans who are suffering from food insecurity, they need something better than a coupon to get instant savings. My name is Mark Anthony Peterson, founder and CEO of Ziscuit. Ziscuit is a two-sided reverse auction marketplace platform where shoppers can post their grocery list. Our algorithm can match them with local grocery store prices and give them combinations of savings that will give them $5 to $10 more in their pocket versus the 24 cents they get today by searching 2 hours each week, clipping coupons and flipping through those flyers like my mother did. I'm going to disrupt the $700 billion grocery market. I'm also going to reduce $162 billion in food waste. And those 49 million Americans, matter of fact, all Americans, are going to be able to put more food on their plate when Ziscuit is fully rolled out. We're going to start with the search engine, and that's going to give us some instant savings for those people who are hurting the most. The platform will also give grocers the ability to aggregate demand in the same way that Amazon does. Now, the benefit for that means lower inventory levels, because when you know what people want, you also know what they don't want. And then you're going to be able to get procurement scale benefits as well. In the beginning, we're going to focus on those cost-conscious shoppers. And we'll give them that grocery engine and monetize it in the same way that Kayak does. In fact, we call ourselves the Kayak of groceries. Then we'll evolve into an auction engine so that all Americans can search before they shop and then get savings when grocery stores bid on their platform. So that's how we'll build that business out. And we are on our way. Guys, I'm happy to tell you that we're going to be launching in October in 2 zip codes in Atlanta with 1,500 pre-registered users. And that grocery search engine will carry forward into 25 different cities before we add on the auction marketplace. My late mother inherently knew that hunger is not a food problem. Hunger is a logistical problem, but she didn't have the technology to solve it. But when we roll Ziscuit out, Ziscuit is going to be able to tell people like my mother and the millions of other shoppers like her that are in this broken $700 billion market that when it comes to your grocery budget, don't risk it, just Ziscuit. Thank you.
Mark, go back one. That was great. Thank you so much.
Was anybody not tied into the beginning of his pitch?
I'm literally in tears.
Like, I mean,
So good.
Yeah, so awesome. And one thing I just want to highlight there is what Mark did, I think, a really good job of is identified founder market fit. One, he had a personal story where he's really tight, he's really passionate about this, but he also talked about his experience. He talked about he's been trying to solve grocery logistical problems for his whole career. He's done this already with a startup. One of the things investors look for is not just product market fit, but founder market fit. Why is this founder the right person to go after this problem? And so as you have that story, and we've seen it a lot from these amazing entrepreneurs today, make sure that you bring that out so that we can see that right away, because especially at early stage, you're investing a lot in that person, right?
yeah. You told us, you started off 2 slides with, we're going to go to market twice. And so you need to clean that up. You know, you can combine them into one slide if you need to, where it's, hey, we're going to go to market by focusing on this, and we're going to do it this way. Right. And so you had multiple go-to-market slides, which I don't know that you need. And that might have just been, you know, nerves or like just mix-ups on. But think about like cleaning that up a little bit.
I'd also love to see an example of what the consumer sees.
Yeah.
Which I think is
it
cool.
didn't run, so I just kept rolling.
Awesome. But I think when you have that screenshot of that identifies what you do and can really help someone new to the platform understand, it's super helpful.
Right.
Yeah. When you're on stage, like mic discipline
Yeah.
Like you're going around, you're waving your hands and stuff, right? And it takes away from your presentation, right? When your mic's coming up and down and up and down. We actually tend to coach almost every founder that we work with to find a spot, stay on a spot, not walk. It actually takes a special kind of presenter to be able to, and you are actually quite good at presenting and you're really good at telling stories, but for the vast majority of founders, it is far safer when you're on stage to find an X, there's actually an X on here, find an X, stand on it, hands behind your back, or if you have a mic, one spot, and just talk to the crowd like this and not do lots of hand motions, don't do distractions, because it takes away from your story and it takes away from your slides when you're moving around a lot. And so, again, if you're thinking about like what's a safe thing to do, unless like, I've seen a couple founders do it quite well, where they can move and use their movement to their advantage in a pitch, but unless you're really confident in that and you need it to enhance things, I would encourage you and everybody to stay planted on one spot, and then it also enables you to have better mic discipline, which again, like there's more people online watching this than there are here, and you might have lost somebody because they couldn't hear what you were saying from your mic, right?
Perfect.
And I think
Perfect.
it's just a note, I think it's great for everybody that, this is obviously, as we talked about, a little bit different from a typical investor pitch.
Right.
But it's awesome to have in your back pocket as an entrepreneur, like a 3 to 5 minute pitch that you can give at events. There are a lot of events out there that, unfortunately we don't, but that like give non-dilutive prize money, that get your name out there. Don't be afraid to get out there and practice it, or just present on your company to get the name out there.
But you could use, honestly,
Yeah.
in an investor pitch, I would 100% use that same opening.
Yeah.
Like I would use the same opening. You might frame it a little bit differently, like, hey, let me tell you like why I'm doing this. Let me tell you a story. And like, I'm gonna tell you my background. Like
Yep.
that would be a powerful like opening to an investor pitch. As well. Again, like to Steph's point of like, one of the things we're thinking about is like founder market fit. Why do you care passionately about this product? Why do you care passionately about what you're building? Because if you don't care passionately about what you're building, there's a good chance that you're not gonna make it to the end. Right. You're not gonna build $1 billion company. Right. Like the companies that I built, like I was never passionate about my product. I love entrepreneurship, and I took a couple early exits, and I ran one right into a brick wall and failed. And so like, the founders that tend to build the biggest companies have like some sort of like tie back to why they're doing the thing they're doing. And that's a really powerful story that you have. So don't be afraid to use that story in an investor pitch, even though it might not have seemed like
Absolutely.
it. Like I would still use it. Like, let me tell you my story.
Absolutely.
This is why I'm doing this. It's really important to me. And if they don't like it, like screw them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's it.
Cool.
We're at time
That's
too.
it.
Perfect.
That was great. All three of us from Bread and Butter do open office hours every week. Sometimes they're booked out a little bit far, but if you go to breadandbutterventures.com and go to our community site, a little further down the page, you can book time with any of the three of us. We're happy to go through pitches. We're happy to give you some insight into venture capital, anything you need. So a huge, huge thank you to our entrepreneurs for pitching today. That was awesome.
For our awesome judges, I guess, or investors. Awesome, yeah. And also, let's give one big round of applause to all the startups that pitched today. I also run a startup, so I know how hard it is to pitch an investor, and doing it live makes it 10 times harder. So congrats to everyone that pitched today.